The metal collar sparked against Zira's throat as the slaver yanked the chain. She stumbled forward onto the auction platform, her three-fingered hands scraping against rusted grating. The crowd barely glanced at her. To them, she was just another broken thing in a galaxy full of disposable lives. Defective Giltari, the auctioneer announced, his mechanical voice crackling through cheap speakers. Wing membranes torn beyond regeneration. Flight capability 0. 90 credits. Do I hear 90? Silence stretched across the station's trading floor. Zira kept her eyes down, watching her shadow tremble under harsh lights. Her wings hung useless against her back, scarred tissue where membrane should have caught air. The genetic flaw had appeared at adolescence, marking her worthless to her hive. They'd sold her to cover debts. That was 3 stations ago. 50 credits, someone finally called. Sold. The auctioneer's hammer fell before anyone could reconsider. Zira's new owner was human. She'd never seen one up close before. He wore coveralls stained with engine grease and carried himself with the tired patience of someone who'd worked too many double shifts. His eyes were brown, unremarkable except for the way they studied her without disgust. "Can you read?" he asked. She nodded once. "Good. You'll work inventory in Base 7. Don't steal, don't break anything expensive, and we won't have problems." "Name's Marcus Chen. You got a name?" "Zira." Her voice scraped like metal on stone. He handed her a datapad. "Shift starts in an hour. Employee quarters are on deck 9. No chains. No cage. Just work. For 6 cycles, Zira cataloged parts in the massive cargo bay." Marcus ran a salvage operation, buying damaged ships and stripping them for components. The work was monotonous but clean. She had a bunk, regular meals, and no one hit her. By station standards, she'd found paradise. Then the child appeared. Zira was organizing thruster components when she heard the small gasp behind her. She turned to find a human girl, maybe 7 standard years, staring up at her with wide eyes. The child wore a pressure suit. 2 sizes too large, the helmet maglock to her belt. "Your wings are pretty," the girl whispered. "Even the hurt parts." "Mira!" Marcus's voice cut through the bay. He jogged over, face tight with controlled panic. "What did I tell you about the restricted areas? I wanted to see the alien." Mira looked up at her father without fear. "Is she the one you saved?" "I didn't save anyone. I hired her." Marcus placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Now back to the office. We talked about this." Mira opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. Her eyes focused past Zira, toward the bay's main airlock. "Dad, why is that door blinking red?" The airlock's emergency seal light pulsed crimson. Pressure warnings scrolled across nearby panels. "Breach protocol," Zira said quietly. "Someone's forcing entry from outside." Marcus was already moving, scooping Mira up and backing toward the interior bulkhead. Zira hit the... The airlock exploded inward. 3 Kresh pirates poured through, their exoskeletons clicking against the deck plating. The lead warrior carried a plasma cutter still glowing from breaching the seal. Behind them, the bay's atmosphere screamed out into the void. Emergency shutters began descending, but too slowly. The nearest one was 50 meters away across open floor. Marcus ran. Mira's helmet tumbled from his grasp, rolling across the deck toward the breach. The child screamed, reaching for it. Zira's body moved before her mind finished calculating the impossibility. She launched herself toward the escaping helmet, her useless wings spreading instinctively. The wind from the breach caught the torn membrane edges, creating drag that should have sent her tumbling. Instead, something else happened. The scarred tissue pulled taut. Air pressure found pockets in the damaged sections, creating unexpected lift. She wasn't flying, not properly, but she was gliding. Her trajectory just controlled enough to intercept the helmet 3 meters from the airlock's hungry mouth. She grabbed it, twisted, and threw herself sideways toward a cargo container. Her body slammed into metal as the emergency shutters finally sealed with a deafening clang. The bay pressurized. Warning sirens died. Zira lay gasping against the container, Mira's helmet clutched to her chest. The Kresh pirates turned their weapons toward her. "Stop!" The voice wasn't loud, but it carried absolute authority. A figure stood in the interior doorway. She was Ziltari, her wings a magnificent spread of royal purple membrane that marked her as high caste. Her 4 attendants wore the white armor of hive guards. The Kresh leader's mandibles clicked with displeasure. "This is human territory. The hives have no jurisdiction." "That," the royal Ziltari said, pointing at Zira, is my subject. Your business is with me now. Station security arrived in the next breath, weapons drawn. The pirates calculated their odds and wisely chose surrender. The Royal approached Zira slowly, her guards maintaining perfect defensive positions. She stopped 2 meters away, her compound eyes studying every detail of Zira's scarred wings. "You glided," she said softly. "With torn membranes, you controlled your descent and caught a falling object in atmospheric breach conditions." She tilted her head. "Impossible. Unless the tearing isn't random damage." Zira's throat went dry. "I don't understand." "Your wing structure?" The Royal stepped closer. "May I?" Zira nodded, unable to speak. Delicate fingers traced the scar patterns. The Royal's breathing changed. "Not a defect," she whispered. "An evolution. The tears create air channels. In normal conditions, they'd be useless, but in high-pressure differential situations..." She looked at Marcus, who still held his daughter tight. "She saved your child's life with wings her own hive declared worthless." Marcus met the Royal's gaze steadily. "She saved more than that. I am Queen Veshkara of the 17 Hives. I came to this station seeking rumors of a defective Ziltari who served humans willingly. My intelligence suggested you were dead, or broken, or brainwashed." She turned back to Zira. "Instead, I find someone who turned their greatest weakness into an impossible strength. What does that mean?" "It means," Queen Veshkara said, "I have a proposal. But first, I think we need to discuss exactly what happened here, and why a human paid 50 credits for something he recognized as priceless." Marcus shifted Mira in his arms. The child had stopped crying but hadn't let go of his neck. "I paid 50 credits for an employee who needed work. Everything after that she earned herself." The Queen's mandibles curved into what might have been a smile. "Tell me, Marcus Chen, do you understand what you've done? I gave someone a job. You challenged an entire civilization's understanding of genetic value." Queen Veshkara's wings rustled. "And in doing so, you may have started a revolution." The station's damaged airlock groaned, reminding everyone that reality didn't care about political implications. But in that cargo bay, surrounded by salvaged ship parts and broken things made useful again, 3 species stood on the edge of something that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of worth, defects, and the dangerous human tendency to see potential where others saw only trash. Zira looked at her scarred wings, then at Marcus and Mira, then finally at the Queen, who represented everything she'd been cast out from. For the first time since her membranes had torn during adolescence, she didn't feel broken. She felt like the beginning of something terrifying and necessary. The Queen's guards shifted position, creating a secure perimeter. Through the bay's observation windows, other Ziltari faces appeared, watching. Word was spreading through the station that royalty had arrived to claim a defect. The crowd grew. "We should move this conversation somewhere more private," one of the guards suggested. Queen Veshkara didn't look away from Zira. "Let them watch. Let them see what they've been discarding." She raised her voice, projecting across the bay. "I want everyone to understand what happened today. A genetic defect, sold as junk, accomplished something no fully functional warrior in my guard could have achieved. She glided through a pressure breach and caught a falling object with wings that should have made her useless." Marcus set Mira down but kept his hand on her shoulder. "With respect, Your Majesty, I don't think Zira's wings are the real story here." "Oh?" The Queen's antennae perked forward with interest. "The real story is that she chose to jump into a void breach to save someone else's kid. The wings just gave her a chance. The choice was what mattered." Silence filled the bay. Even the station's ever-present hum of machinery seemed to quiet. Queen Veshkara studied Marcus for a long moment. "You're right. And that's exactly why I came here." She turned to address the growing crowd. 5 cycles ago, I received reports of unusual Ziltari activity in human sectors. Defects serving willingly, accepting wages, living without hive structure. My advisors called it corruption. Genetic weakness seeking refuge among aliens who couldn't understand proper hierarchy. She paused, letting the accusation hang. "I came to investigate these claims, to retrieve corrupted individuals, to punish humans who might be exploiting vulnerable Ziltari. Her wings spread wider. Instead, I found this. A woman my people declared worthless, living with dignity, working with purpose. And when crisis came, she didn't calculate genetic value or hive hierarchy. She just moved." A queen's voice dropped to something fierce and quiet. That's not corruption. That's not weakness. That's what we've been breeding out of our species for the last 1,000 generations. Your Majesty, this is not appropriate for public ass. Captain Thresh. The Queen didn't raise her voice. Stand down. His wings remained stiff with disapproval. Mira tugged on her father's sleeve. Dad, is the Queen going to take Zero away? Marcus's jaw tightened. That's going to depend on what Zero wants. All eyes turned to her. Zira felt the weight of that attention like physical pressure. A queen of the 17 hives stood before her offering, what? Recognition? Redemption? Or just a different kind of cage? I don't understand what you want from me, Zira said. Queen Veshkara's expression softened. I want to know if your abilities are unique, or if we've been throwing away evolutionary advantages because they don't fit our aesthetic preferences. She gestured at the crowd. I want to know if there are others like you, discarded and dismissed, who could be saving lives instead of dying in poverty. And if there are, which will require proof, undeniable public witness proof that our current system is flawed. The Queen stepped closer. I need you to come home, Zira, not as a returned defect, but as evidence that we've been wrong. The offer hung in the recycled air. Zira's wings trembled despite her attempt at control. Marcus cleared his throat. Zira's got a contract. 6-month term, renewables. She's 3 months in. I'll pay the remainder, Queen Veshkara said immediately. That's not the point. Marcus crossed his arms. Point is, she signed it voluntarily. Breaking it should be her choice, too. The Queen's mandibles clicked with what might have been amusement or annoyance. You're surprisingly protective of someone you bought for 50 credits. I hired her for 50 credits. There's a difference. Is there? The Queen turned back to Zira. From your perspective, what's the difference between being sold and being hired? She thought about her bunk on Deck 9, the regular meals, the work that made her body ache in satisfying ways, the absence of fear when she woke each morning. He gave me the collar key, she said quietly. First day. He what? The slaver's collar. Marcus unlocked it and handed me the key. Said I should keep it as a reminder that no one owns me anymore. Zira met the Queen's compound eyes. That's the difference. Ownership versus employment. Chains versus choice. The Queen was silent for several heartbeats. When she spoke again, her voice carried a weight that made even her guards stand straighter. Then I'm asking, not commanding, will you return to hive space? Will you let me study your wings, your capabilities, and use what we learned to challenge genetic legislation that's been law for centuries? And if I say no, then I'll leave you to your inventory work and quiet life. No one will force you. Queen Veshkara's wings drooped slightly, but thousands of others like you will continue being sold as junk. Children will keep being separated from parents because their membranes don't grow symmetrically. Entire genetic lines will be terminated for variations that might be advantages in disguise. It was well-played manipulation, and Zira recognized it as such. It was also probably true. She looked at her wings again, the scarred tissue that had defined her entire existence as failure. The tears that shouldn't have let her glide but somehow had. The defect that had saved a child's life. I have conditions, Zira said. The Queen's antennae perked forward.
Name them.
Marcus gets paid the contract completion bonus. Full amount. No confinement, no forced testing. Agreed. When this is over, when you've got your proof and changed your laws, I want the option to come back here, to this bay, to this work. Queen Veshkara's expression became unreadable. You'd choose salvage inventory over hive status, over recognition and honor? That's all I want. The crowd pressed closer to the observation windows, hundreds of faces watching the defect negotiate with royalty. Finally, Queen Veshkara extended her hand in the human gesture of agreement. You have my word. As Queen of the 17 hives, I swear that when our work is complete, you're free to return to wherever you choose. Zira looked at Marcus. He nodded once, his face carefully neutral. She took the Queen's hand. Their wings brushed together, perfect membrane against scarred tissue. The contact should have highlighted the difference. Instead, it just felt like two Shiltari agreeing on something important. How long do you need her? Marcus asked. 3 months minimum. Possibly 6, depending on research results and political navigation. The Queen released Zira's hand. I'll arrange transport within the cycle. Mira made a small sound of distress. Marcus picked her up again. You hear that, kiddo? Zira's going on a trip, but she's coming back. Promise? Mira looked at Zira, not her father. Zira felt something crack in her chest. I promise. The child nodded, satisfied in the way only children could be when receiving promises from adults. She didn't understand political complexity or genetic legislation. She just knew that the alien with pretty wings had saved her helmet and would come back eventually. Queen Veshkara gestured to her guards. Captain Thresh, arrange secure transport and accommodations. I want medical scanners, genetic specialists, and legal scholars ready when we arrive at the primary hive. She paused. Also, send word to the Council of Matriarchs. Tell them I'm bringing a defect home, and they're going to want to clear their schedules. The guard's wings stiffened again, but he bowed. As you command, Your Majesty. As the guards moved to follow orders, Queen Veshkara turned back to Zira. Her voice dropped to something only the two of them could hear. I'm asking you to face the same people who declared you worthless. To stand before the matriarchs who approved your sale. To let them examine every scar and tear while they try to justify why they threw you away. Her eyes held something complicated. This won't be easy. Nothing worth doing is, Zira said, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. You learned that here, didn't you? From humans? I learned it from being given a chance when no one else would. The Queen's mandibles curved into that almost smile again. Then let's go teach my people what second chances look like. Ziltari, humans, Kresh, and a dozen other species pressed against the transparisteel, watching history pivot on the moment a defect said yes to hope. Marcus extended his hand to Queen Veshkara. Take care of her. She's a good worker. She's far more than that, but I suspect you already know. She glanced at the damaged airlock, the scattered cargo, the evidence of chaos barely controlled. What you did here today, Marcus Chen, was either very brave or very stupid. Story of my life. Humanity in a nutshell. But there was warmth in the Queen's voice now. Thank you for seeing value where we saw only waste. And for teaching someone to jump into the void when someone needed saving. She already knew it. You just had to give her a reason. Queen Veshkara looked at Zira, really looked at her, seeing past the scars to the person who'd chosen to risk everything for a child she barely knew. Yes, she said softly. I suppose we did. Station security finished processing the Kresh pirates. The emergency repair crews arrived to assess the airlock damage. Life on the station began returning to its normal chaos. But in Bay 7, nothing would be quite normal again. Zira spent her last night in the employee quarters on Deck 9, packing the few possessions she'd accumulated, a datapad with her inventory logs, clean coveralls, the collar key Marcus had given her, which she kept in a small box under her bunk. She was holding the key when Mira appeared in her doorway, clutching a stuffed toy that looked vaguely like a Terran bear. Dad said I could say goodbye. Mira climbed onto the bunk without waiting for permission. Are you scared? Zira started to deny it, then stopped. When you were floating toward the space hole. Mira hugged her toy tighter, but you did it anyway. Someone had to catch your helmet. Yeah. Mira studied her with those impossibly earnest human eyes. Dad says you're going to help other aliens like you, so they don't get sold anymore. That's the plan. Good. Mira nodded with absolute certainty. You're really good at helping. You should do it more. The simple declaration hit harder than any of Queen Veshkara's political arguments. Zira carefully set down the collar key and pulled the child into an awkward hug, her wings folded around them both, scarred tissue creating a shelter that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. I'll come back, Zira whispered. I promised. I know. Mira's voice was muffled against her shoulder. Aliens always keep their promises, Dad told me. Marcus appeared in the doorway, giving them both a gentle smile. Come on, kiddo. Let Zira get some sleep. Mira extracted herself from the wing embrace and hopped down. At the threshold, she turned back. Your wings really are pretty. Even the hurt parts, especially the hurt parts. Then she was gone, leaving Zira alone with the collar key and the weight of promises made to children who believed absolutely in alien honor. The next morning, Queen Veshkara's transport arrived. It was a sleek diplomatic vessel, all elegant curves and royal purple hull plating. Nothing like the cargo hauler Zira had lived on since leaving the hive. The sight of it made her stomach clench. Marcus walked her to the docking port. Mira held his hand, trying to be brave. You've got my contact codes, Marcus said. Anything goes wrong, you call me. I don't care about interstellar politics. I will. Zira hesitated, then added, Thank you. For everything. And for proving that 50 credits was the best investment I've ever made. Then Zira knelt to Mira's level. "Be good for your dad. Be good for the Queen," Mira countered, with the impeccable logic of 7-year-olds. Zira's throat tightened. She spread her wings one last time in the station's familiar gravity, letting Mira see every scar and tear. "Remember what these look like now. When I come back, they might tell different stories. Tell me all of them." Then Zira walked through the airlock into the diplomatic vessel, into the unknown territory of royal politics and genetic research, carrying nothing but a collar key and the memory of a child who'd called broken wings beautiful. Queen Veshkara waited in the main cabin, surrounded by medical equipment and scholarly datapads. "Ready?" Zira looked back one last time at the station, at the cargo bay where she'd learned that worthless things could choose to be brave. "Ready? Then let's go change the galaxy's mind about defects." The transport disengaged from the station, and in the observation window's reflection, Zira saw her scarred wings spread against the stars, casting shadows that looked less like damage and more like the beginning of revolution.